So when I first started talking to Nutch, this is where she was working. Living down there in the blue. And this is the restaurant. Lovely. Very close to the university. Not busy today. It's early afternoon. Somewhere around 2, I think. Very nice. Typical outside restaurant in Thailand.
I figured I'm going to Thailand. I can't speak a lick of Thai. So I looked at dating websites and joined ThaiFriendly.com, but this time I took a totally different approach to online dating. Yes, I looked at profiles whenever I could, but honestly, I did not reach out to a single woman. I figured, I've got my honest profile up and fistful of photos, if anyone is interested, they will reach out to me. That didn't take long. I need to deviate from the story just to mention something everyone needs to know that you may not know. Thailand has a fair-sized ladyboy community. I only mention it because some of them did reach out to me through the site. The good news is that none of them hid the fact that they are in fact ladyboys. I did find out that as a member of Thai Friendly, there is a setting that allows you to toggle off getting contacted by ladyboys, that is, of course, if they are honestly signed up as such in their profiles. When my current wife sent me a hello. And when I saw it, I clicked onto her profile and said to myself, okay, this looks promising. Thailand is 12 or 13 hours different time zones away depending on the time of year, and where I was in North America. Once we started chatting, we moved off of Thai Friendly onto an app called Line. And because of my job at that time as a long-haul trucker, it was very easy to talk to her at least 2 times every day. When I was waking up, she was having supper or preparing for bed. When she woke up, my driving day was usually winding down. I would just tell her approximately how long until I was parked, and then I would call her back for FaceTime on the Line app. January 2017, I was on my way to Thailand for the very first time. Culture shock to say the least, but once I put it into my head that I'm not in North America, which took me about a week, I started enjoying the country. Thailand is known as the land of smiles for a good reason. It is also a beautiful country. A very affordable country if you can stick to a budget. I say that because you can, and many have, gone broke here if you spend money like a drunken sailor. Nutch and I continued our long-distance relationship after I returned back to Canada. My next trip would be February 2018 for another 30 days on my passport, which was all I was allowed back then without applying for a visa. On this trip we did a 1-week stay in Vietnam for the first time. The third time back to Thailand was my first time on a visitor's visa, and my first time away from Canada during Christmas. That was December 2018, until April 2019. This time we spent the entire month of February in Vietnam, and that almost became a trend for us as we spent every February since then, except of course during the 22 months I couldn't go to Thailand thanks to COVID-19. Speaking of the pandemic, January 2020 I arrived back in Thailand, and we spent 1 week in Bangkok getting all the paperwork completed to get married. So that February 2020 we had our honeymoon in Vietnam. Started out in Hanoi, Ha Long Bay on the Scarlet Pearl cruise ship, and the rest of February in Da Nang, Vietnam. After we got back to Thailand, the lockdown had really kicked in, and that was the year I had a hard time getting out of the country to go home. My return ticket was originally for the end of April. That flight got cancelled. I booked another flight. That also got cancelled. I booked a third time. I not only lost a bunch of money during that time frame because of the cancellation, I also lost most of April. I think my departure ended up being the 3rd of April instead of the 29th. It was truly a weird time. Example, I was on a flight from Seoul, South Korea to Seattle, Washington that had 190 plus empty seats. Every flight before to Thailand and back were always full. The good thing about that portion of the flight was I had a row to myself so I could lay down and sleep. I mentioned that because as a long-haul trucker for most of my life, I trained myself not to sleep sitting up. So all those flights I took previously, where the longest part is around 15 hours in the air, that is brutal for me. So I make sure I book an aisle seat so I'm not crawling over sleeping passengers when I want to stand to stretch or go for a walk. If you're still watching this video, comment below if you are one of those people that fall asleep on a flight. I notice people all over the plane sleeping, even on short flights. Fast forward to February 2022. 22 months after I left my wife in Thailand, the travel restriction had been relaxed. Having said that, let me talk about the hoops I had to jump through to make this trip. I'm guessing now, but I believe I was tested at least 5 times from the time I left Canada until I was actually free to roam around Thailand. It would have only been 4 times, but my itinerary got changed in Toronto when I missed my departure from Winnipeg, thanks to a snowstorm. So now my flights included a stop in Frankfurt, Germany, which wasn't on my original flight plan. Germany required a test to be completed within a certain timeframe, and because of when I had it done at home, and then with the storm-delayed flight, I now needed to get one in Toronto, which was easy enough, but it was another $60. The part that ticked me off is not one person in Germany asked for proof. Landed in Phuket, Thailand a day later. Thailand was calling it a sandbox. Although you were free to move around that city, you couldn't leave Phuket until your second test came back negative. First test was at the airport when I arrived. Then the second test I think was done a week later. If it was negative, you were free to leave Phuket. The day I arrived in Phuket, Nutch flew down from Chiang Rai. Before I even left for Thailand on this trip, I had completed the paperwork for Nutch to obtain a visitor's visa for Canada. The plan was to try to work it out so that when I returned to Canada, she could come with me. Best laid plans of mice and men. I had only booked a month this time, because I was now at my teaching job, and I was really only eligible for 2 weeks holidays, but before I started work at this school, I told them about my trip, and was given the okay to take 30 days. The good news was Nutch had the letter stating that she had 30 days to get her biometrics done, which needed to be completed in Bangkok. That's what this trip was planned around. I got a clean bill of health, and the next day, we were on our way to Bangkok. Biometrics completed, now we were just hoping we would get the good news before my departure in early March. It didn't happen. I left on the day I was booked to depart. Nutch went home to northern Thailand and we waited. We didn't have to wait too much longer, I just don't recall how long, but it was still March when we got the great news that she was granted a visitor's visa to come to Canada. I do have a video of her arriving in Canada for the first time. I'll try to remember to link it at the end of this one. So Nutch arrived on April 4, 2022. I'm going to leave the story here because it's long enough already, and we have some content based on her time in Canada. So the journey continues. Even though our channel is growing at a snail's pace, we will continue to try and get better. I'm looking into buying a better camera. I'm playing with AI and different video editing software. Please leave a comment below if you've watched any of our other videos. Answer this question. Is my content getting any better? I am open to suggestions on how to improve. I think the content could get better if Nutch was more involved. She is actually warming up to the idea. Like to support our work here, I suspect you know the drill. Cheers!